In the previous videos, we talked about how to get into consulting, but what if you want to get out? In this video, we're going to talk about the exit opportunities from consulting. So, what are we waiting for? There are generally 3 exit opportunities from your consulting firm. Going to another consulting firm, going into industry, or being one of these cool people that goes into startups and entrepreneurship. We're going to talk about each of these in this video. First up, going to another consulting firm. Now, there's a few reasons why you'd want to do this. If you're in a big consulting firm that's pretty general, like I am to be honest, if you've got a particular interest or a particular industry or niche that you really want to specialize in, it can be difficult to do that in a big firm. And you might be feeling like it's time to head to a more boutique firm. For example, if you're particularly interested in financial services consulting or in strategy consulting, generally, if you're ready to double down on a particular thing, a boutique firm is a better place to do that. Secondly, you might just want to change from the firm you're at the moment. For example, it's pretty common that if people have been at one of the MBB firms like McKinsey, BCG, Bain, they've done their few years there, they've put in their hours, but they're not ready to leave the consulting lifestyle just yet. But they do want to have a bit of a better work-life balance. To that end, it's quite common to see people leaving big MBB firms for big, well-known consulting firms, but they don't ask for such intense hours. The third instance you see people leaving to another consulting firm is because of some promotion opportunity or salary. I would strongly encourage you to think twice before you do this though. For example, if you hop between Accenture and Deloitte, EY, KPMG, for example. The reason I say this is whilst you can be lured in with an extra 10, 15k, whatever it is, remember that when you go to another firm, you have to rebuild your reputation all over again. This means that when you join a new firm, the clock basically resets on your progression to your next promotion opportunity. And the higher up the career ladder you get, the more your career progression relies on your reputation. Now, for you to have a good reputation, you need time to build that. So you might see a short-term gain in terms of salary, but the question I'd encourage you to ask is, will it really be the long-term gain? It's actually more common to see people move into industry. The primary reason people do this is because they are done with the hours and they just want a better work-life balance. Generally, because of the level of experience and often the level of seniority in terms of client exposure that you get in consulting, you can hop into industry at a much higher level. For example, you might be a manager in consulting, but then when you leave, you go to be a head of something somewhere. And obviously that comes with a certain rewards package, but above all else, it does come with a quieter, better work-life balance. There are those out there who would like to disagree with me. If you do, feel free to drop it in the comments. But from my personal experience, having been in both, and also from talking to friends who've done the hop between them, I can promise you that the primary reason people leave is hours. How do you get from consulting into industry? Well, aside from the normal job application route, it's actually common for the client to approach a consultant and offer them a job. Now, if you are considering a move like this, it's really important that you go and check your HR policy, because there can be some subcontract law thingies that mean there's a policy against you going to work for the client as an employee for a certain amount of time. So it's really important that you go and do your research if you're considering this type of move. Now we have the cool people. These are the people who quit consulting to go and join a startup or create their own company. Generally, people who leave consulting to go to startups are people who are just done with the whole big corporate culture and are ready for a bit more of an egalitarian culture. Having worked in a startup, as well as having my own startup, I would say that you definitely get to feel the impact of the work that you do much quicker and in a much more tangible way. When you're working in a big company for a big company, you can sometimes feel like you're a bit of a cog in the wheel, and how does my contribution really make an impact on the world? And it's generally people who can't resolve that question that tend to move out of consulting into startups, because the startup culture gives you that straight away. Generally, Generally, you don't leave consulting for a startup in order to get better hours. Startups secretly have pretty challenging hours, especially if it's a very early stage startup. I can tell you from personal experience, it takes a lot of work. So if you're on the product side, when you're pitching for funding, whether that's, whatever round you're at, scaling up takes a lot of work. So going to a startup, whilst it looks really cool, is definitely not the easy option, but it is a very vibrant place to work where you can immediately see the value of what you're delivering. Of course, there'll always be people who go on to have complete career changes and do completely unexpected things, and that's cool too. But I would say that the 3 most common exit opportunities from consulting are another consulting firm, heading into industry, or heading to a startup. But how do you know it's the right time to quit consulting? Well, you're gonna have to wait for the next video for that. And to be sure that you don't miss out, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and you'll be ready. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give it a like. Drop a comment down below if you've previously been in consulting and now you've pursued an exit opportunity. Would love to hear about it. I, for one, will be sticking around in consulting for a while, but it's always good to know what your options are.